Hi, and welcome back to the channel, guys, or welcome to the channel if you are new here. I'm going to do a review of The Last of Us Part 2, which is something I promised to do once Kat and we finished the game, and we did that recently, so here goes. This is a tough game to talk about, and I've written a lot of stuff down, so if I'm looking down sometimes, it's just because I need to know where I am in the text. Otherwise, I'll just start rambling. And in general, it is hard to get into this game without, mentioning all the controversy that is surrounding it. And I am well aware of everything that, has been happening with the leaks and what a lot of people think and feel about this game, but I'm going to focus on my thoughts and how I interpreted this game and, also Kat, because I've been talking with her a lot about this. So even though it's just me reviewing it, you're probably gonna learn a little bit about what Kat thought about the game as well, since we agree on a lot of it. And most people who give a damn about this game, they know what happens at the start of it. And even though we knew beforehand, unfortunately, it was still very hard to watch once it actually happened. But to me, this game was pretty much all about perspectives. It's also very much about pain and how we choose to deal with it. Do we succumb to it and the anger, or do we try to rise above it all and move on, essentially? And since I want this to be sort of a shorter review, I will not get into a lot of small details, and I will mainly focus on the two lead characters, Ellie and Abby. So let's just start with Ellie, the known variable, so to say, if you've only played the first game. We've been following her and Joel, and in the first part of the story, and I'm saying part of the story, it's to me the first game. It's going to be part 1, since this is part 2. When we get into this one, we already know about her, we know about Joel, we know about the journey that they have been on together. And that is something that I want to get into immediately, is story structure. Where in the first one, the controversial decision, so to say, it comes at the very end of the game. And because we had been spending a lot of time with Joel and Ellie, we understand them and we know what they are about. And I'm sure many people cared deeply about them once they got to the end, or, started to care about them more and more throughout the game. So we accept and we understand the choice that Joel, he made at the end of that game, no matter how horrible that choice may be perceived, where he rescues Ellie from the Fireflies. And we know what sort of person Joel is. As I said, we know what he's been through with losing his daughter at the start of the story there, and then going through everything with Ellie and them forming a father and daughter relationship. He does not want to lose another daughter. That is very essential for his characters. That is why he makes that decision. And we totally get that, because once again, we've just been on this long journey with these two characters, and we get them, we understand them, we feel for them. So most people, they did not really bat an eye when we got to the end of the game, and Joel, he made sort of a controversial choice where he's kind of choosing to be selfish. And he's like, no, I do not want to lose another daughter. I have just been through this entire thing with her. I do not want her to die. And he makes the choice for her. And for us, essentially, like we as players, we did not have anything, like we could not make a choice in that scenario at all. It was always going to go down the way it was going down. So as I said, the controversial choice, it comes at the end of the game. Whereas in this one, it comes at the very beginning. And we then spend the entire game trying to understand, accept, and come to terms with that decision and what Abby did, and why Ellie is so hell-bent on chasing her down and killing her. And I'm sure the ending where Ellie finally gets to her, but decides to let her live, is a controversial subject as well. But for me, it was extremely fitting and very rewarding, exactly because of the journey we had just gone through, both with Ellie and with Abby. And when we get to the end, Abby, she has found peace, even though she was very close to killing off both Ellie and Dina. And she did kill off Jesse and Joel, of course, and she almost killed Tommy. But with the addition of Lev and Yara in her story and what they represent, she was able to snap out of the anger and the hatred and move on. Something that Ellie couldn't do for a long while, until the very end, as I just explained before. And the moment before she let go, we see a quick memory flash of Joel sitting on a porch, guitar in hand, And after the scene is over and Ellie has let Abby go, and Abby did not want to fight Ellie at this point because, as I mentioned, she had found peace. We see that whole flashback scene play out, and it is crucial to this story, where Ellie decides to try and forgive Joel, even though he hurt her deeply and took away her choice. That would have made her life matter, as she said so herself. So this forgiveness and this willingness to move on, that is the last thing she talked about with Joel. The last thing she said to him. They were finally getting to a point where maybe they could start to move on and move beyond this point. So to honor Joel's memory, what is the best thing to do here? Is it just to give in to the hatred and kill Abby, or try and forgive her, or try to move on at least? And the second option, that is the one she took. Thankfully, that is the one we got. And as I started off saying in this review, I think that was very fitting and very rewarding as well. And as I also mentioned, Abby got to this point a bit quicker than Ellie, but she also, fell into the hole of despair and pain and just wanting to get revenge. That happened, kind of earlier for her, since she lost her father, and then she was trying to find Joel for 4 years and just been training and building herself up and focusing on this one thing that she wanted to do. And even in the scene where she kills Joel, and I think it's the second time we see the scene and we see her face, we can clearly see that what she just did not help her. It did not make her feel better at all. She throws the golf club thing on the floor and she says, "We are done. Just let them live. This will go no further." And then when she experiences tragedy again and she loses someone very close to her again in Owen, and Mel dies as well, she almost gets to exact revenge on Ellie. And that's when the whole Lev and Yara thing is so important, because she did something for someone else, and that gave her peace. That made her want to move on and continue in life. And we get that through some of the, I would call them like nightmare or dream sequences we see with her going through the corridor in the hospital, going towards the room where Ellie was being operated on, and where Joel killed her father. And it's pretty much a nightmare, and it's horrible every time she goes through that corridor and opens the door, up until the point where she decides to go back and save Lev and Yara and do something for them. It is selfless, but she also admits, I am also doing this for me. I need this. And that's why the last time we see her have this dream or nightmare, she opens the door and her father is alive. She has found peace. She's no longer struggling. She's no longer trying to get rid of this pain in a violent way or trying to exact revenge on anyone. She has simply gone through some change. She has done some good, and she's more or less, ready to learn how to move on. And that is why when she has the knife to Dina's throat and she sees Lev, and Lev is like, "Abby, what are you doing?" It made her go like, okay, I cannot keep doing this cycle of vengeance and hatred and pain and tragedy. It cannot continue like this. I have to make an active choice here. She wasn't able to do it the first time, and she succumbed to it, and it did not make her feel better. But this second time around, she was able to stop herself and walk away from the situation. And then even when Ellie comes for her again, she refuses to fight her. She refuses to let this go on. Plus, she's also pretty damn weak at that point after being captured by those slavers. Can I just say, both Ellie and Abby got to kill a lot of people and dogs in this game, and that definitely doesn't make them better people at all. And you can understand, and you learn to understand where the wolves are coming from, and the scars, or the seraphites, I should rather say. But those freaking slavers, F those guys. I have no sympathy whatsoever towards slavers. So killing those people off towards the end of the game and freeing Abby from hanging there down by the ocean and everything, that was very satisfying. But backing up a little bit, she was very weak, and maybe she couldn't have fought off Ellie even if she wanted to. But the fact of the matter is, she said, I will not fight you. So yeah, once again, I really liked the way that they ended it and gave both of those characters the, you know, they've been through a lot, their whole journey. They've been through so much pain and tragedy, but they both got out of it in the end alive. And even though it's not, all happy days and celebrations or anything like that, Ellie went home and the house was empty. I do believe she knew that when she went there, and it's just some part of the journey we did not see, where maybe she went to Jackson, where that's where I would think, that's where Dina went with JJ, and they're staying there, and they just, moved all their stuff, and they decided that this was maybe the best way to do things. And then Ellie moved there by herself to maybe just be alone and move on by herself for a little while, just try to move on, and then maybe we will catch up with her in part 3 if we ever get that. And then Abby got to jump in a boat with Lev and go to safety, hopefully. So yeah, all in all, I have to say I really enjoyed this game. If you can, it's funny talking about enjoyment with this game, because there is, as I've said many times, so much sadness and pain and loss and tragedy and everything in this game. So it is very dark and dreary a lot of the time, but there's also humor here and there, and all the characters are very human in the way that they act and react towards each other. And there's one scene I kind of want to highlight here towards the end, that is, to me, kind of symbolizes some of the stuff that both Ellie and Abby went through with this, trying to, they're in pain and they're trying to get out of it by fighting or running or getting revenge or whatever it is. It's when Abby is young and you're with her father. I think you're near a zoo or something. Yeah, it's definitely Sue. And you come across this zebra who's been caught in wires, and it keeps on struggling, and the more it struggles, the more it gets hurt, the deeper the scars get, because it's just trapped there. It needs to, not struggle to get free, and maybe even accept some help. And by doing that, it gets free, and it gets, kind of reunited with its fall and everything. And to me, there was just some symbolism there in, as I said, the way that both Ellie and Abby, struggling and trying to fight through this pain, but the more they fight, the more pain they're in, and the deeper the scars get. But when they stop and maybe try to not fight it so much and accept some help, then they can move on. And it's just I saw some correlation there, and I like that. There's a lot of symbolism in this game, and just a lot of themes overall. And as I talked about at the very beginning, I think this is very much about perspectives and seeing it from different perspectives, understanding people, where they're coming from, why they made the choice that they made. It's food for thought, and that's where I'm gonna end this review. If I could score it, I don't know, maybe give it like a 9.5 out of 10 or 9 out of 10, something like that. Like the places where the game kind of dips a little bit for me is sometimes in combat and with the AI and stuff like that. But then, then the graphics, they are amazing. The music is just on point, and the acting is... wow. I really think this whole performance capture technology is just reaching the peak, and the people that they had playing these characters, like Troy Baker as Joel, he did a wonderful job as well, and Ashley and everybody, they just did a wonderful job. And I think, in my humble opinion, it is a very, very, very well told story. And I could probably go on and on and on about why I think this game was a success and why it worked so well, and with the themes and the story structure, even though it was provocative and, killing off a character that you love in the first minutes of the game pretty much, and then having you play as the character who killed that character that you loved is risky. But if you're willing to follow this story and the characters and dive into the motivations and and everything, all the perspectives, then I think you're going to be rewarded. And if not, then yeah, that's just the way it is. Not everyone can agree on everything, especially when it comes to stuff like this. But that's gonna do it for this spoiler-filled review of The Last of Us Part 2. Thank you guys so much for watching. As always, remember to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you very soon. Bye.